Welcome to Lynn Cullen Live. Talk radio without the static. Email your questions and comments to lynncullenshow@gmail.com. And now your host, Lynn Cullen.
And hello there. Hello, Atcha. Now, so today's the day I've been sort of dreading. Yeah, the debate. I don't even want to think about it. Okay, I'm a wreck. I'm a nervous wreck. I also have a question. What? There's a thing. This has nothing to do with any of that. There's a big thing in the New York Times today about the Jimmy Awards. And these are the best high school musical performers from around the country competing and putting on a big show on Broadway. And I was looking at it thinking, wait a minute. When did the Jimmys? That was the Kellys. That was something that we started here in Pittsburgh, the Kelly Awards, named after, of course, Gene Kelly, Pittsburgher. And this is after his death. His widow was a big part of it. And the reason I'm, so aware of it is in the first years of it, I often was part of it as a presenter. So I saw these kids performing here, and I was just blown away. Now it was held at the Benedum. The place was packed. It really was wondrous. And the thing is this was ours. This was the Kellys. And I'm reading this big article in the art section about the Jimmys. And how they have grown in such esteem that casting agents for Broadway and national tours scout them, see them as a prime way to find promising performers. And then they have this long thing about all these kids who happen to be, in the national thing. But I remember when the Kellys went national. When did they become the Jimmys? Who stole our name? I'm really confused. Now, it does say here, formerly known as the National High School Musical Theater Awards, the Jimmys were founded in 2009 by the Pittsburgh CLO. Well, excuse me, the Pittsburgh CLO did not call them the Jimmys. How could you say the Jimmys were founded by the Pittsburgh CLO? They were I'm confused. Okay, wait a minute. Oh, it says also involved was the Niederlander organization. And that company's one-time chairman is James Niederlander, hence the nickname Jimmy's. Well, Gene Kelly is a bigger name than James Niederlander, isn't he? I feel like we was robbed. All I'm saying. Jeez, the Jimmys. Give me a break. Okay, I do not know how to even begin voicing my contempt for this Supreme Court. I I I find them, as I find the Republican Party, a clear and present danger to us and to our democracy. We know, because of another snafu at this ridiculously dysfunctional court, with a decision showing up on its website and then pulled back regarding emergency abortion in Idaho, that the court is poised to punt again, um, dealing with the chaos they have created by overturning Roe. The chaos being it's every state for itself, and some states absolutely have criminalized abortion. They don't even allow for abortion in the case of the life of the mother. Idaho is one of the extreme ones. They have a law that what's happening is doctors there. Idaho won't have an obstetrician in another year or two. They're leaving. They can't, they're terrified. And women are unable to access emergency health care if they're pregnant. Emergency rooms don't want to see them because they're worrying about lawsuits or going to jail because of these draconian laws unleashed by this Supreme Court. And if the leak thing was correct, the court is about to again use a procedural kind of way to avoid cleaning up the mess it made. Here it is and there it goes, unsigned opinion that was visible for a little bit there on the court's website said that they were intending to dismiss the case as improvidently granted. Again, these are the kind of legalistic ways of avoiding their responsibility to do what they're paid to do, which is make decisions. They weave, they dodge. It's just unbelievable. So again, they're dodging this. They dodged the abortion pill ruling. They did not make a decision on that. The pill is still available because they punted again and said that the people who had brought the case did not have standing to bring the case, which means that's still floating around out there. This thing's now floating around out there. They create this horrific situation. Anyone who cares about any woman of childbearing age needs to understand that this court is making war on them. Women are being harmed. I also saw today that since the draconian abortion law in Texas took effect, uh, infant mortality in Texas has substantially increased. Children less than a year old are dying at a rate that has not been seen in some time. And do you know why that is? That too is because of the abortion decision. Women who would have terminated a pregnancy knowing that their child would survive for a few hours, a week, maybe a few months, not exactly living a quality life, hospitalized. Imagine the expense, not that that's the number one thing. But because women have been denied the right to control their own bodies and are being forced to give birth to children who cannot live. They're born with half a brain. They're born with no kidneys. They're born with who knows what. And all of that was known, could have been taken care of. But no, there has to be suffering. There has to be incredible suffering. Dear Lord. But there's another case that they decided that made my head explode. This does not have to do with abortion. This does, though, have to do with another issue that has plagued this court because of its own conduct, and that is the sense that the court is corrupted by money. And especially in the case of two of the justices, Clarence Thomas and Alito. And this court, under that kind of a cloud, found 6-3. You needn't ask who the 6 are, and you needn't ask who the 3 are. A 6-3 ruling. They parsed the difference between a bribe and a gift. And guess what they found? The 6. Gifts are not bribes. Bribes are done before an action is taken. A bribing of a public official so that they do something you want them to do, that's against the law. That's unseemly as well. But if after the official does what you want them to do, you give them a gift, that is not illegal. I'm not kidding. That is essentially what their decision said. It just depends. So if you're smart, you don't do your bribing. You don't bribe before. You make clear what you want, but you don't. And then if the person in a position to help you out helps you out, Then, if you give that person the bribe, it's not a bribe, it's a gift. Kavanaugh, who wrote the majority opinion, likens it to like they love doing this. He says it's commonplace. It's like a family tipping the mail carrier, or parents sending a gift to their child's teacher at the end of a school year. They know damn well that's not what this is about. The case before them, to be clear, was about a public official, the mayor of a small town in Michigan, not Michigan, Indiana, Portage, Indiana, a guy named James Snyder. And Mayor Snyder, was apparently Portage needed a few more garbage trucks. And Snyder, I guess, managed to steer this contract for 5 garbage trucks to a specific company. And that company, was very happy because they got like $1 million for those trucks. And once they got the money and the trucks were doing what the trucks were supposed to do, the trucking company cut a check to the mayor for $13,000 for his services. Now, the mayor said he was a consultant to the company. Don't ask. How the hell could a serving mayor be I don't know. He was a consultant to the company. A jury thought bull, because they know bull when they hear it, and convicted the mayor of, in fact, accepting an illegal gratuity. You see, bribes are before the fact, gratuities and gifts are after the fact. He was sentenced by a judge to more than a year in prison. He appealed. He lost the appeal. A federal appeals court agreed with the jury. And so he went to the Supreme Court. And the court uh, said he didn't do anything wrong. That was a gratuity after the fact. That's not, I can't even, I don't even, I can't, blah, 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 blah. In the majority, the Republicans explained that the law typically makes a distinction between bribes and gratuities. And that's one's made prior, one's made after. And they don't have a problem with the things made after. It's just a thing where you thank somebody. Who could be against that? Justice Jackson, in the minority, really, really, God bless her, took a swipe at her brethren on the court. She said this: officials who use their public positions for private gain threaten the integrity of our most important institutions. Greed makes governments at every level less responsive, less efficient, and less trustworthy from the perspective of the communities they serve. And then she added this. She said that the argument made by the mayor was absurd and an atextual reading of the statute that only, here are her words, that only today's court could love. Yeah, a court full of grifters. It really is astonishing to me. I guess that is to be I guess that is to be how I'm going to be for the rest of my life now, I guess, standing with my mouth agape, astonished, confused, in disbelief. A bribe? I mean, where did I know that was in another case, but I mean, another one of the liberal justices in a dissent said something, if it walks like a duck, talks like a duck, yeah, well, quacks like a duck, blah, blah, blah. And this is another instance. These conservative bullshit jurists are too clever by half. Their parsing is repulsive and offends common sense, offends our, I'm thinking of the jury, though, whatever 12 souls those were in Portage, Indiana, who listened to this. They didn't have law degrees, but they agreed with the 3 justices in the minority on our Supreme Court. They listened to this and said, what? That's bull. Guy took I mean, it's a payoff. It's a payoff. They have no shame. By the way, I saw something that was a little disquieting. There's been this sense that the court, with its Dobbs decision, the overturning of Roe, was giving a huge gift to the Democrats. And since Dobbs, there have been in special elections and a lot of other instances where it seems that that abortion is an issue that never mind. The court has now issued an opinion on the Purdue Pharma, the opioid makers, the Sackler family, who were attempting to shield themselves personally from any of the claims that have been lodged against them. And the court actually, I agree with this ruling, said that the deal that was struck that is not going to be able to stand, that they would personally avoid liability. That is proper. But I guess that's somebody. As for the court itself, They can dodge liability left, right, and center, but the Sacklers, I guess not. Sacklers, forget it. Forget it. You should have made a gratuity, Sacklers. They didn't get their gratuity in order to the right people at the right time. It's too bad. Yeah. Sacklers will be in sackcloth before long. I'm sorry, where was I going before I so rudely interrupted myself? Oh, so abortion believed, to be something that's going to help with the voters. Yeah, but then there's this, and you may have a vague memory of it. I think it was last year, and the state was South Carolina. South Carolina, after Dobbs, moving forward to pass a total ban on abortion. And astonishingly, it did not pass because two Republican women in the legislature crossed the aisle and joined the Democrats and voted against it. And it did not pass. Oh, I'm sorry, 3 Republican women. 3. Well, I got to tell you that all 3 of those Republican women have now lost their primaries because they were primaried on the right, so they're out. They're not the candidate anymore. So, and in fact, one of them, Senator Katrina Shealy, was the only female member of the Senate. And Tuesday, she failed to win a runoff. And that makes 3. 3 gone. All 3 gone. One lost by a 64-point margin. One lost by a 33-point margin. And now, with the loss of those 3 women, there will be no Republican women in the legislature in the next session. So, I don't know. Milton says there are 5 decisions have been handed down or up or whatever they do today, and none of the really important ones. No, and here again, I mean, I left unsaid the biggie. These bastards, excuse me, but these bastards, again, dodging their responsibility in a case they never should have taken again, and that the laughable Trump immunity case. Remember when that was first argued before, not when it was at the Supreme Court, when it was at a federal court level. And one of the, astonished judges there said, well, wait, are you saying, they said to Trump's lawyer, are you saying that Trump could order the military to assassinate his rival, blah, 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 and wouldn't be charged? And the lawyer, said, yeah, that's what we're saying. And that court made just a really smart, watertight decision saying, you gotta be kidding. And Trump appealed to the Supreme Court, and the Supreme Court said, well, let's see that. When no one in their right mind thought they would take that case. It was done. They took it, and the equivocating in the questioning of the attorneys made a lot of heads explode, and now they're sitting on their decision, which will make a lot of heads explode, I am sure, because they will probably engage in their parsing. Well, maybe the president could order somebody killed in an instance where blah, blah, blah. I don't know. And we won't know. And because of that, they, like, Judge, what's her name? Judge Cannon, have played defense for Trump and keeping us, the voters, from having any decisions, information in front of us when we go to the polls in November. It's beyond belief. Just beyond belief. Okay, so I read something that was, I think it was in the Atlantic, and it was interesting because I hadn't noted it, but the author had, and this was that Trump, for some reason, in the last few weeks, has been bringing up a subject that you would think he would want to bury. And that was the fact that he has often called veterans, and especially dead ones and wounded ones, suckers and losers, right? That's the kind of thing I would think that would destroy anybody's candidacy. But this is Donald Trump. I don't know what his base hears when they hear that he said that. He's now saying he never said any of those things. And he brings it up at his rallies over and over. Now, he's lying, of course. But why would he even go there except that he's thinking this is a vulnerability and he needs to inoculate his credulous base against any claims that he had in fact said such a thing. Yeah, I'm looking at what the justices have done. No. So the leaked Idaho abortion thing was correct. They will be, they're punting. They're punting, but because of that, a woman, a pregnant woman in serious risk of death, if she makes it to an emergency room in Idaho, the justices have said, until whoever we punted this to, deals with it, yeah, I guess they can try to save her life. But here, in case you hadn't been paying attention to this, this vileness. So, at a fundraiser in DC last weekend, Trump said this. Let me get it here. The person, he's talking about The Atlantic here, the magazine. He says, they made up this story about me, looking down at graves, saying suckers. They made it up. Suckers and losers. I mean, who would? Surrounded by military people. There's nobody that's stupid enough to make that statement. Think of it. And I was president. I would have said that, would have been justified. Would have been, if I'd said that, it would have been justified for somebody to start taking swings at me. They just made it up. It's a phrase that was totally made up by a third-rate magazine that's going out of business, losing a fortune. I think it was The Atlantic, a magazine nobody reads. By the way, a lot of people read it, and it is profitable. Who would say such a thing, says Trump. In Las Vegas a few weeks ago. I'm standing there, he says, with generals and military people in a cemetery, and I look at them and say, these people are suckers and losers. Now think of it. Unless you're a psycho or a very stupid person, who would say that? Now, isn't, I mean, stop and think of, because he did say it, stop and think of what would have to be what? I guess there's no dissonance in his head. He's just covering his tracks, and in covering his tracks, calling himself, realizing he has to say you'd be a psycho or you'd be incredibly stupid, both of which I guess must be true. I'll agree with him. Who would say that, standing with generals? We know what he said about John McCain. He's not a war hero. He was a war hero because he was captured? I like people who weren't captured. That is on tape. That we know. He denies he ever said that now, too. But after he called for General Milley's execution, that finally got his former chief of staff, John Kelly, General John Kelly, to put out a statement. And I will share it with you. He stood with Kelly at Kelly's son's grave in Arlington and said to the father of a 29-year-old who gave his life in defense of his country, he said to General Kelly, I don't get it. What is in it for them? Is that not amazing? Now, you have to wonder how Kelly didn't just take him out. I can't even. That Kelly served one more minute as his chief of staff is beyond me. But here is Kelly finally come to his senses. Here's what he says. What can I add that has not already been said? A person that thinks those who defend their country or are shot down or seriously wounded in combat or spend years being tortured as POWs are suckers because there's nothing in it for them, a person that did not want to be seen in the presence of military amputees because it doesn't look good for me. That is what Trump said. He didn't want any amputees in a parade that he wanted because it doesn't look good for me. He says a person who demonstrated open contempt for a Gold Star family, for all Gold Star families, on television during the 2016 campaign, and who rants that our most precious heroes who gave their lives in America's defense are losers and wouldn't visit their graves in France. A person who has no idea what America stands for, has no idea what America is all about. A person who cavalierly suggests that a selfless warrior who has served his country for 40 years in peacetime and war should lose his life for treason. Talking about Milley. A person who admires autocrats and murderous dictators. A person that has nothing but contempt for our democratic institutions, our Constitution, and the rule of law. There is nothing more that can be said. God help us. Now, it's been pointed out that not a lot of these guys have stood up and said and endorsed Biden. They need to do that. And it needs to be part of a big campaign to reach those credulous people who are still reachable. John Kelly needs to step it up a little more. And I know there are members of Trump's cabinet who, won't be voting for Trump. We just got to hope that there's a whole lot of people who live in Trump country who are keeping quiet and who, in the privacy of the voting booth, will vote for Joe Biden. I don't know. Milton says the court's finished for today. Oh, yeah. Probably got some gratuities to collect. The court is finished for today, but we'll make more announcements tomorrow. But because it was not stated that tomorrow will be the last day, we may not even get all of the remaining. No, I bet we don't. I bet this court, is going. Normally, a court, it's the last Thursday, right? They finish things up. This court has decided fewer cases, kicked the can down the road in a whole bunch of others. My God, this court, here's the problem of low information voters. This court should be like front and center in the campaign. But it's something that too few people comprehend. There was a full page ad in the New York Times, I think today. Let me see if I can find it. And it was the justices. I don't know where I saw it. Oh, here it is. Full page ad, paid for by United for Democracy. I don't know who they are. And it shows the 6 justices seated, as they are in their portraits all the time, all together. 3 in the front, 3 in the back. And in the picture, though, they stuck red. It's a black and white picture, and they stuck red MAGA hats on them. And the The words say they are just getting started. And says the MAGA Supreme Court justices are on a relentless power grab, and we are paying the price. They've stolen our abortion rights. They've helped corporations pollute our air and water. They've flooded our streets with weapons of war. What's next? Yeah, they're just getting started. I have recommended to you before a what are they called sub? I don't know what anything's called anymore. A Substack, I guess. Uh, and I want to recommend it again, and I'm going to recommend it and then share with you some of today's. You subscribe to her. It doesn't cost you anything, but what you get is amazing. And the name is Heather Cox Richardson from Letters from an American. And I'm sure if you Google her, you can find a way to listen. I mean, listen to get her to be on her list. I I just want to hang on, hang on. I want to share with you just like her letter. You get about 5 or 6 a week, and they're brilliant. She is an historian. Um, she starts out her letter today saying that, noting that President Biden pardoned more than 2,000 former military personnel who had been convicted of being gay. And for those people, they will now be able to apply to have their military discharges corrected, to recover the pay and benefits their convictions cost them. Biden said he was righting a historic wrong. She talks about that for a while. She talks about how the wait a minute, where's it? She talks about abortion and Dobbs and how after Dobbs and with what's going on, Idaho and all these other cases, she says people used to think about abortion as something that was not necessarily something that involved them. But she says now it's so clear that because everybody knows someone who had a baby or wants to have a baby or might get pregnant, and it's become profoundly personal to a majority of the public. She also talks about since Biden's restrictions on the border, on asylum seekers, the number of people trying to cross has dropped more than 40% to its lowest level since he took office. She says this will likely be something that can help him in tonight's debate when Trump comes at him with that. She talks about Kinzinger making his endorsement of Biden. She notes this, that Brian Kemp, the governor of Georgia, has said that he did not vote for Trump in the state's Republican primary, but he said he would support the ticket in November. She says that's an interesting statement, since he could easily have deflected the question or simply said he voted for Trump if he cared about avoiding Trump's wrath. But he appeared not to care. suggesting that Trump's power, even with prominent Republicans, may be slipping. I don't know. And then she got into the court bribes and gratuities and talks about that case. And she dives deep until you find you really end up learning by reading her stuff. And as she puts it, it's just a letter a day, so it's not like some truly long thing. And she pointed out how House Republicans released draft legislation yesterday that would slash nearly $1 billion from the Department of Justice and cut funding for the FBI. I mean, they are actively now working against our national security. In a secret vote yesterday by a House panel that fell along party lines, House Republicans also agreed to say, listen to this, that the last Congress's January 6th committee was invalid and illegal. And then, after saying that the January 6th committee was invalid and illegal, they took that and tried to help Steve Bannon stay out of jail because he's going to jail for refusing to respond to the committee subpoena. So Representative Barry Loudermilk of Georgia filed a brief with the Supreme Court saying that Bannon was right to ignore the subpoena because the committee was illegally organized. My God. My God. They will not stop. I'm sure you're aware of cases being brought all over the country already trying to suggest that the vote is rigged. One of those cases is here in Pennsylvania. They're doing it in the important states that we are told ad nauseum will decide the election. I don't know. Hey, apropos of nothing, remember I told you the other day that I got this check in the mail from a life insurance company I never heard of for $86.03. And it said it was a death audit. So I can't believe I bothered, but I yesterday actually got on the phone. And first of all, I tried to find a number for the bank for the insurance company. And I Googled it and I got a number. I called the number, and astonishingly, a human being answered, which sort of shocked me. And before he said hello, he was talking to somebody else when he picked up the phone, and he was like laughing. He was saying, and he goes, yeah, hi, it's blah, 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 huh? And I right away, my antenna are up, like, what? I said, I am trying to reach blah, 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 blah. I said, is this the whatever, and he said, well, no, but I do represent them. I'm thinking, wait a minute. I got a guy here who picked up a phone, which is now like makes you think something's wrong. You get a human. Um, and now he's saying, oh, yeah, he represents this entire life insurance company. And I kept asking questions. And then it turns out he said, look, I'm a brokerage. I represent a number of insurance companies. And I'm thinking, well, why did you not? I want to talk to that insurance company. Could you get me a phone number for him? And he hemmed and hawed, and then he said, okay, let me look. And then he said, geez, I'm not seeing him. And then he says, wait a minute. He said, could you give me your name? And I said, no, I don't think so. Um, no, I just want the proper number. And then I did end up telling him that it was a check. It was a death audit check. I had no idea where it came from. And he said, death audit? He acted like he'd never heard of any of this stuff. Then he said, well, these life insurance companies can get gobbled up by another life insurance company, and you don't know who's holding the policy anymore. So that might be why you're not. And that made sense to me. But he was all full of it. He said, listen, if you find, he said, you got to be careful here because it could be that this is, if you cash that, it could be closing out an account that you think you have and blah, 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 blah. I couldn't believe it. I said, could you please maybe just give me a number? He looked some more and he found a number. So I got off the phone with him and I called the number. And this time I got a chipper sounding woman who said something like, hello, this is Stephanie, your virtual assistant at the insurance company. I thought, okay, well, this is more kosher now. I don't have a human, right? And Stephanie suggested that she could help me with this, that, and the other thing. And she asked me if it was about this, that, and I could say no, 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 no. And so I exhausted her, and she actually put me in touch with a human being who I think was in Sri Lanka. Very thick accent, had trouble comprehending anything. That poor woman, I was on the phone with her for easily 15 minutes. And put on hold a number of times. I did give her my name and to whom the check was made out to, the check number, all this stuff. She could not find a thing. She said she'd call me back. So I don't know what. I mean, I'll cash the damn check. It's $86. Take someone out to dinner. But whenever you have to like talk to, if you have a question about almost anything now, the nightmare you plunge yourself into, the kind of dystopian lunacy, it really does make you feel like I don't know. I tried to reach another company yesterday and could not locate any number that would put me in touch with a human. And I needed to speak to a human. Could not. I tried everything. Dear God. Remember how this technology was supposed to make our lives easier? Remember? Dear God. Okay, guys, that'd be it for me for the week. I got a call. Hang on. I got a call. I'm sorry. Have you been there for a long time? No. Okay, hey, real quick, because our time's up. If you're still there. Hello?
Hey Lynn, I was trying to slide in here at the last minute. I went to a program called Culture Force. I don't know if you've heard of it, but it's a group of Ukrainian soldiers who are also musicians.
Oh wow.
That are in Pittsburgh tonight. I'm sorry I didn't contact you earlier, but I didn't really know about it until recently. And they're playing at the Syria Mosque out on Route 28 at the Creighton exit. And it's a variety show. They have a whole lot of different musical forms, and they're coming through the states to thank us for saving them. So,
well, we haven't, but we haven't saved them.
Well, they're projecting it, and they're they're more optimistic now than they were certainly a year ago.
I don't know. God help them. Well, thanks for the shout out. I'm glad you got it out there. So if anybody doesn't want to listen or watch the horrific debate tonight, you can go and be entertained by these brave Ukrainian musicians, soldiers.
Yeah.
And again, is at this. Where the hell's the Syria Mosque? You said it's at the Syria
Mosque is out Route 28 north off the Creighton exit. When you get off the Creighton exit on Route 28, you can see the mosque from the exit.
Okay. And, I didn't know that. I didn't know.
Yeah. Well, that's where the old Syria Mosque went.
I did not know. I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, it'll be a good time.
Okay, thank you. Glad you got that in.
All right.
Appreciate it. Bye-bye.
Take care.
Bye-bye.
Right, bye.
Bye. Okay, guys, I'm signing off. And God help us. I just don't have a clue. It's driving me crazy that I won't talk to you again till Monday. Because odds are I'll have something to say after suffering through whatever's going to occur between 9 and 10:30. Anyway, as General Kelly said, God help us.
Lynn Cullen Live, Monday through Thursday from 10 a.m. to 11 a.m. and archived at pghcitypaper.com. The opinions expressed on Lynn Cullen Live are those of the host and do not necessarily reflect the viewpoints of Pittsburgh City Paper or its advertisers. you.